Vikings. Who were they? The Vikings came from three countries of Scandinavia: Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. The name Viking comes from a language called Old Norse and means a pirate raid. People who went off raiding in ships were said to be going Viking. Around 400 Anno Domini they began to make frequent raids by boat into Europe, even going to the Mediterranean Sea and raiding Sicily and southern Italy. The Viking Age in European history was about 700 Anno Domini to 1100. During this period many Vikings left Scandinavia and traveled to other countries such as Britain and Ireland. Some went to find and steal treasure. The Vikings discovered America about 500 years before Christopher Columbus set sail. Some Vikings sailed west to Iceland, Greenland, and even as far as Nova Scotia, Canada. Some Viking men married Native American women there. The Vikings settled in Iceland and Greenland, but only stayed in Canada for a short time because the Inuit people were too strong for them. Culture and houses. How did they live? A Viking house is shaped like a Viking ship with oval sides, and somewhere between 30 and 50 people living together in a house, the entire family and their slaves, and often domestic animals in a stable room at one side. This typical Viking house design is called the Tilburg house, but not all houses were the same. Vikings adapted their houses to the surrounding areas. Women were very important members of the Viking culture, because their men were away for long periods of time. The women were the ones that ran the household and farms. Viking women also knew how to protect themselves, and they could pick out any man they wanted to be their husband. Even before the Vikings converted to Christianity, religion was a very important part of the Viking culture. Vikings worshipped a various numbers of gods and goddesses. Since the Vikings were people who were known warriors, it makes sense that their version of heaven included fighting all day. If a Viking was a good and true warrior, they would be able to go to the Valhalla or heaven. After fighting all day long, their nights were spent eating and drinking like it was a party. It was called feasting. Technology. What was their legacy? Vikings were often portrayed as savages. Not until 1890s did scholars outside Scandinavia begin to seriously reassess the achievements of the Vikings, recognizing their artistry, technological skills, and seamanship. The Vikings were very good sailors. They built boats that were long and narrow. They were called longships or dragon ships because they had giant wood carvings of dragons that were displayed at the front of the boat. The dragon was used so that people would be frightened. Each longboat could carry over 100 people. According to the custom, all free Norsemen were required to own weapons and were permitted to carry them all the time. These arms were indicative of the Vikings' social status. A wealthy Viking had a complete ensemble of a helmet, shield, mail shirt, and a sword. Many people think of Vikings as always wearing big helmets with horns. Actually, there was one Viking helmet found in Norway, and it didn't have any horns. The Vikings established and engaged in intensive trading networks throughout the known world, and it had a profound influence on the economic development of Europe and Scandinavia, not the least.